I'm standing in front of History Colorado, the History Museum in downtown Denver, and I'm here to see 8 founding documents that helped form the United States. These documents are traveling to 8 different locations across the United States on a plane called the Freedom Plane. This Freedom Plane was inspired by the Freedom Train that toured the country during the bicentennial of the United States. So let's go in and take a look at these 8 founding documents that they have in store for us. Because we had the privilege to get up close and personal with these original documents, we get to see the actual signatures of George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, John Adams, and many, many more. Another great thing about this is shorter lines and time to really look at the documents. If we were to see these at the National Archives, there would be very long lines and an urgency to move along, something we didn't feel here at History Colorado. So what documents did we get to see? Well, first on the docket were oaths of allegiance from George Washington, Aaron Burr, and Alexander Hamilton. Let's take a look. Let's set the scene. George Washington's troops were encamped at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, during the harsh winter of 1777 to 1778. In February 1778, Congress ordered all Continental Army officers to swear an oath of allegiance. Oath takers swore the words, "The United States of America to be free, independent and sovereign states, and declare that the people thereof owe no allegiance or obedience to George III, King of Great Britain." Oaths were then signed and witnessed. Approximately 1,200 oaths now survive in the U.S. National Archives, including these 3 signed by George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and Aaron Burr. Wow, that's some powerful stuff in my book. George Washington's oath was sworn before and signed by William Alexander, Earl of Stirling, Major General. This item was created on May 12, 1778, at Valley Forge. This is the interior of Washington's headquarters at Valley Forge. Can't you just imagine him sitting here with Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton signing these documents? Ooh, just gives me chills. Here is a fun side note. This is the Oath of Allegiance signed by Benedict Arnold on May 30th, 1778. It reads that he signed the document at the Artillery Park in Valley Forge. This document was not on the tour, but is housed with the other oaths in the National Archives. 2 years later, Benedict Arnold betrayed his oath by conspiring to surrender West Point to the British. And the rest is history. Next on our tour are the Articles of Association, which were published on October 20th, 1774, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here is the background of this document. Leaders of the American colonies assembled in Philadelphia in September 1774 to address their grievances against Parliament. On October 20th, 1774, the First Continental Congress adopted the Articles of Association, which is a non-importation, non-exportation, and non-consumption agreement between colonies which urged all colonists to boycott British goods. The Articles of Association is the first documented instance of the American colonies coordinating policy together and was signed by 53 delegates of the First Continental Congress. Let's take a closer look to see if we recognize anyone's signature. Our next amazing document is the Bill of Rights. After the Constitution was ratified by the states and became the supreme law of the land, Representative James Madison proposed a series of amendments. Several states advocated for additional protections for individual liberties. The version we are looking at is the U.S. Senate's markup copy and what became the Bill of Rights. On September 25, 1789, Congress passed these 12 amendments, and they were sent to the states for approval. Article 3 through 12 were ratified in 1791, ensuring such basic American freedoms as the right to freedom of speech, freedom of worship, and freedom of assembly. It's very interesting to take a closer look at this draft copy to see what they crossed out and what was replaced. Let's take a closer look. Next is the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris was the document that ended the Revolutionary War. This copy was signed on September 3, 1783. After 8 long years of war, the United States and Great Britain signed the Treaty of Paris, formally recognizing the United States as an independent nation. John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and John Jay negotiated with Great Britain on behalf of the United States and achieved British recognition of American independence and the definition of land boundaries that allowed the Americans westward expansion. The new country gained land stretching west to the Mississippi River. In addition, the Americans kept rights to fish off the coast of Canada, and both sides agreed that valid pre-war debts should be paid to creditors. The treaty is named for the city in which it was negotiated and signed. According to the National Archives, there are multiple treaty documents that can be considered as originals. In this case, the United States and British representatives signed at least 3 originals, 2 of which are in the holdings of the National Archives. This is one of those 2. The last page of these treaties is what I find extraordinary. It bears the signatures and wax seals of the American negotiators John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, John Jay, and that of David Harley, who represented Great Britain. The Americans signed their names in alphabetical order. On other copies, they are arranged vertically rather than horizontally, as in this copy. If you are not familiar with John Jay, he was a key founding father of the United States, diplomat, and the nation's first Chief Justice. He also co-authored 5 of the Federalist Papers alongside Alexander Hamilton and James Madison. Here is a fun fact. Some online copies of the treaty omitted Delaware from the list of colonies, but the original text does list Delaware. This is due to human error, typos, or sloppy proofreading during data entry or scanning software. This is a 1783 portrait of the Treaty of Paris. Here's a fun hidden fact about this portrait. From left to right, it depicts American delegates: John Jay, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Henry Lawrence, and William Temple Franklin. Here's the hidden fact about it. The British delegation refused to pose, and the portrait was never completed. If you're not familiar with William Temple Franklin, often called Temple Franklin, he was the illegitimate grandson of Benjamin Franklin. He served as his grandfather's private secretary during the American Revolution and later helped manage his historical papers. He was the son of William Franklin, who was the last royal governor of New Jersey. His father was also the illegitimate son of Benjamin Franklin. The family was politically fractured during the Revolution. William Franklin was a loyalist to the British Crown. Temple was raised and educated largely under Benjamin Franklin. Another figure in the portrait that you might not recognize is Henry Lawrence. Henry Lawrence was a political leader, merchant, slave trader, and rice planter from South Carolina, who served as the 5th president of the Continental Congress during the American Revolution. He is recognized as a founding father of the United States and helped negotiate the preliminary peace terms of the Treaty of Paris after being exchanged for British prisoners. He had been captured at sea by the British Royal Navy and imprisoned in the Tower of London for over a year. Because the British viewed the American rebels as British subjects committing treason rather than foreign prisoners of war, he was imprisoned on suspicion of high treason. He was the only American prisoner who was held in the Tower of London during the Revolutionary War. Finally, but most definitely not the least important, is an 1823 original stone engraving of the Declaration of Independence. By the time the Second Continental Congress met in May 1775, the conflict between the British and American rebels had already been fought at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. Congress appointed George Washington of Virginia to coordinate a unified American war effort as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. In a final attempt to prevent all-out war, Congress communicated a grievance directly to King George, but the king declared that the colonies were in a state of rebellion. As the months wore on, public opinion in the colonies shifted towards independence. On July 2, 1776, Congress adopted a resolution declaring independence from Great Britain. The Declaration of Independence was issued on July 4th and circulated in newspapers. Washington ordered the Declaration of Independence to be read aloud to his troops. Decades later, Secretary of State John Quincy Adams commissioned engraver William J. Stone to make an exact replica of the Declaration of Independence in 1820. Approximately 200 copies were produced in 1823, but fewer than 50 are known to exist today, which includes the one we're looking at History, Colorado. Here's an intriguing question. Was a copy of the Declaration ever sent to King George? Historical correspondents confirm that top-ranking British officials in London received a printed copy in early August 1776. But even though King George III had a massive personal library, A specific copy sent to the British government has not been located. There are two theories of why none of these have been located. Either the document was discarded because it was viewed as a rebel manifesto rather than an official diplomatic dispatch, or it was part of the royal collection records that were destroyed in London during the 20th century bombing raids. Even though the king's personal copy is gone or never has been found, the British government successfully intercepted several other early American prints during the war. These copies are at the National Archives at Kew, which is the United Kingdom's central archives. It holds 3 original Dunlap broadside copies that were intercepted by British officials in 1776. Dunlap broadside copies are considered the first printing of the Declaration of Independence. We are looking at one of those copies right now. We hope you enjoyed this quick examination of these important original documents on display for all to see. If you are a fan of taking deep dives into history, then you are in the right place. Here at Generations Found, we find hidden and rarely seen history for all to enjoy. We invite you to follow our channel so you don't miss a minute of what we have to offer. Go out and make it a wonderful day, my friends, and always remember to be kind in everything you do, including the comments you make.